Hey everybody, Josh the RV Nerd. Welcome back to Bish's RV for our monthly-ish RV industry update. Going to get into what's happening right now in the RV industry, what kind of led us up to this point, what we might be looking at in the future. Now, one of the major hot-button topic items in the industry right now is what's being referred to as the diesel RV ban, effectively, that may be affecting 6 states and potentially up to 5 more after that. If you haven't heard of any of that, I'm going to try to condense it, a 30-minute topic or longer, down into a 5-minute cliff notes today. We've seen the passing of effectively an industry legend. We're going to get into our normal market status reports, looking at sales versus shipments and the health of the industry, and a bunch of other things in between, as well as some new RV parts and components that are coming into the marketplace that you may want to keep an eye out for. And as always, if you find these videos useful, do me a favor, please share them into like your favorite social media groups, or at the very least, if you have nothing to comment on and add, drop me a little like on the video. It costs you nothing, and it does help spread the message a little bit, and every little bit helps get this information out there, because our goal is to always provide you that relentless pursuit of transparency. I've talked enough. Let's get right into it. First thing I want to do here, though, is actually refer you to another video that we have within our library that you may want to check out after this. And I'll warn you, if you think this RV industry update is long, the one that I'm going to reference is, well, it's 2 hours. Basically, we got together with JD from Big Truck, Big RV, and we had a very candid, open discussion about the state of quality within the RV industry today, what it means, what it could be, what would be the ramifications and whatnot. And if you are curious about some things and you'd like to hear some very no-nonsense answers on the topic right now, make sure you check out the link in the video description. And again, you may want to take it in a little bit of parts or segments, but we have a very big in-depth video on the state of things there, why they are the way they are, what they could be, but what that may also mean for you as a result. If you're curious, check that out. So getting right into it, one of the biggest, by the way, I hope you appreciate that I'm not going to drag this video out 30 minutes before I get into the big story right here. I want to get it right up front for you. The RV marketplace is currently facing an unprecedented event where an entire class of RVs, several in a sense actually, may be effectively banned from being sold. This kind of dates back to 2020, and there's a lot of legislation. Again, I'm going to hit like a 1-hour topic and try to give you a 5-minute Cliff Notes version. But back in 2020, there was some legislation passed that essentially said manufacturers of motorized vehicles or motorized chassis, as is the case in the RV industry, have to meet these progressive emissions reductions down to the point of being effectively zero emissions by like, what, 2035, 2036, something like that. And there was this little clarification that kind of happened recently that suddenly left major producers of diesel chassis like Freightliner and Spartan unable to meet these new requirements and unable to effectively provide RV builders with diesel-based chassis. So effectively, diesel pushers, most any diesel motorhomes, Super C motorhomes, will effectively be not able to be produced and sold within these 6 states over here. This is often being referred to as the California diesel ban, because it kind of is based on some legislation way back when this legislation came through that effectively allowed California to specifically govern their own emissions regulations, and it allowed some other states at their discretion to either maintain the traditional federal emissions standards or adopt the California standards, but they had to go one or the other. There was no picking and choosing. So as a result, there were 5 other states that adopted the California standards. So whatever California does, those other states are required to follow suit unless they want to jump over to the federal standards. And as a result, that means that as of sometime next year, it's actually not exactly clear when, because there's so much weird gray area revolving around this legislation, that they're effectively a lot of types of motorized RVs, more specifically, will just be unable to be sold within those states. The thing here is that like your Ford gas chassis may be actually able to still be available in those states, because Ford also produces a number of zero emissions, like electrified vehicles, that they get these credits that allow them to still build some combustion type chassis and vehicles into those states. So it's not that all motorhomes will necessarily be banned, although even then there's this weird we don't know aspect of it where somewhere in the verbiage of all this, it's basically this could affect any motorhome 8,500 pounds or more, which is pretty much freaking everything except the tiniest of the motorized stuff out there. So it's all kind of a mess. Now, what's been happening here is that how are these chassis manufacturers not prepared for this? There's been a lot of lobbying to get the RV industry an exemption for this. It just hasn't happened. And there have been a lot of talks with RVIA, the RV Industry Association, getting together with the California Air Resources Board about this to try to negotiate, like, is there a middle ground? Is there a place that we can meet in the middle? And they've met several times, and so far no agreement has been reached. At the time that I'm recording this, they are allegedly slated to get back together. Talks weren't closed, they just haven't reached an agreement. They are allegedly supposed to get back together in early December to continue talks to try to get some kind of agreement made so that essentially diesel-based RVs could be available in the 6 states where they are effectively going to be banned from sale, prevented from sale. Now, beyond that, along with RVIA having discussions or lobbyists or whatever is happening all over there, because I'm not a Bill on Capitol Hill, I'm not exactly sure of all the internal details, but our incoming administration has actually pretty overtly stated that they want to essentially remove California's ability to dictate their own emissions and, by extension, the emissions standards of other states. Now, the thing is that's been tried before. And it essentially failed pretty definitively. But sounds like they may be going down that road again. So currently, sometime in 2025, we don't know if it's going to be January 1 or at some other mystery date, because it's really not made clear in any sort of legislation. These diesel-based platforms, primarily diesel pushers and Super Cs, will just not be available for sale. Now, the pre-existing used motor, like if you buy a used diesel pusher and you're, say, a California or an Oregon resident, as long as it has, I think it's, 7,000, 8,000, 7,500, something like that, miles or more already logged on it, it could still be registered and kind of grandfathered in through. What I haven't been able to get any clarity on, despite looking and trying, is what if an RV dealer has a diesel pusher motorhome already in stock in those states come the flip of the calendar or whatever made up date ends up getting applied to this? I can't find any clarity on that. I suspect it will be grandfathered through, but I don't know that. That would make sense to me, but this stuff doesn't necessarily have to make sense. So again, this is going to be something that you're going to hear a lot of people dive into. And real quick, I want to give some serious credit to my friends over at RV Miles. Jason and Abby had sniffed this out and were way ahead of the curve on this. Chances are they're probably going to have more updated information on this out there before I would ever have a chance. And I don't think that, I've never been this guy's like, no, you should only watch my channel, this is the only channel. They put out some absolutely excellent, very candid information. If you want to stay in tune on this topic, I would definitely recommend checking them out. They will probably get you some updated information before I have the opportunity, like January 1st, because I only get to do these news things once a month, and they do them at least once a week. So there you go. Well, that was more like 7 or 8 minutes. I was trying for 5, but for my standards, that's pretty good. Let's roll on. And a bit of a somber note, I want to pay some respects to Mr. Pete Legal. On November 18th in the evening, Pete left us, and since he founded Forest River, in case you weren't aware. He was the kind of big guy over Forest River, founded that company in 1996, but has been essentially a mogul of the RV industry for a long, long time. But what a lot of people don't know is a lot of the stuff he did behind the scenes. Pete always kind of prided himself on running what he called the quiet company, and a lot of the other things that they did beyond just build campers never really saw a lot of light of day. A lot of philanthropic efforts, especially around Elkhart County. Pete was actually one of the major original financial funders of essentially like one of the very first RV tech training schools that was ever out there. So, you know, whether it was his divisions over which he presided, you know, driving innovations and floor plans in the industry forward, or the people that competed against Pete trying to do the same thing, it was one of those things where his presence constantly, you know, kept things moving onward. Now, there's been a well-established line of succession. It's not like, oh my God, Forest River's now, you know, going to be up and cast. That's not going to happen whatsoever. But it is very interesting. Essentially, we kind of just witnessed the passing of the last of the old guard of the RV industry, and it's just a, like I said, just a very somber moment that kind of hit me. So, yeah, there we are. Moving on. The RV dealership acquisition market is starting to become very, very interesting. So, coming out of the or coming into, I guess you'd call it, the post-pandemic era, there were a bunch of small dealerships that during that period they were making really good money and didn't manage it very well, or didn't manage their inventory, or for whatever reason got themselves overextended, and they had to kind of find a way out. And a lot of times what happened there is a lot of your bigger national RV dealer chains ended up acquiring these smaller, mostly mom and pop shops. Now, there were some instances of some places that maybe coming off that period, the ownership just went, well, you know what, I had enough, I'm calling it quits. That's exactly what kind of happened with my family's organization. If you're not aware, if you scroll back through the history of this channel, it used to be called Haylett RV. That was my dad's place, and neither he wanted to retire, neither myself nor my brother wanted to run the big show. He kept us very financially healthy. We were in debt to nobody, and he's like, hey, I just want to take my grandkids fishing. So he got out of the business, you know. So that's why we joined Bish's RV. There was certainly some of that, but a lot of places got themselves way overextended. Well, your smaller dealerships tended to get gobbled up first. It's starting to get to the point that even some large dealer groups are becoming absorbed by even larger dealer groups, or at least some of these large dealer groups are selling off chunks of themselves to get some capital back in their pockets real quick. Now, it's not going to be really hard if you want to Google around and figure out who I'm talking about here. I don't want to name drop specific names in this video because it will sound, because I work for a dealership, it will sound very much like I'm attacking them. I'm not trying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to attack anybody else. I'm not trying to poison waters. I'm trying to educate you as consumers so you know what the marketplace is like if you do or don't choose to engage in any business in this marketplace. You know, doing everything we can to try to be fair and candid with you here, but it's tricky because of my position within the industry. Anyway, sorry, I just noticed. There we go. Yeah, I don't want the weather getting in that thing. Anyway, moving on from there. Essentially, different groups have chosen how to invest their dollars in the post-pandemic era. Some have chosen to acquire and all the dealerships they can and get all the territory they can, which is a smart business model. We have chosen, we grew, we went from 3 stores to about 23, and we've actually shrunken it back down to about 21 with several purely mobile service locations. And from there, we realized that we needed to invest more in RV service. And like, that's why we have put just a ton of time, money, and effort into our Bish Fix platform and have created effectively like a national service platform where we can assist you and have, you know, almost a nationwide network of mobile techs that are certified to provide Bish's RV service for people now. But everyone's done it differently. The fact is, though, the RV marketplace continues to change. It's changing in the same way that the automotive industry, the hotel industries have already changed, where instead of having all these little multiple brands in the auto industry, you know it mostly as the big three. Now there's obviously some groups like Tesla and stuff out there, but your largest manufacturers are, Ford, GM, Stellantis. The hotel industry, there's several groups, but you have like your Hiltons, your Marriotts, your IHGs, those kind of things. The RV industry, in terms of dealerships and campgrounds, continues to kind of head that direction. And I don't know that I necessarily love it in some ways. As a consumer, the first thing that goes through my mind, because I don't spend my money any different than you, is lack of competition never benefits a customer, full stop. And I don't know, as a person, I don't know that I feel any differently than that. I think that's a very reasonable mindset, but it doesn't change the fact that it's happening. And I can't change that, but I can let you know what's going on. And if you appreciate how we do our best to kind of keep you in the loop, I don't know, hit that subscribe button. Always do the best I can in these industry updates to let you know what's going on. Jumping over to our RV market data section of the video, that's become a pretty regular mainstay in these things. Again, just to kind of phrase this in a real quick, obvious way and then dive into it, shipments are up versus last year, sales are down versus last year. But what are we really looking at here? Well, the RV marketplace overall, it has almost been carried by the travel trailer market this year, and that trend is not changing now. Fifth wheels have held their own. They've got their heads above water. They've seen a little bit of growth right there, mostly in the lower dollar fifth wheel segments. That, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 segment has really shrunk, but the $40,000, $50,000 fifth wheel segment has been doing okay and has pretty much been carrying that segment in the industry. Other than travel trailers and a little bit of fifth wheel action, though, it feels like there's some segments of this industry that are on absolute life support. Now, looking ahead on this, the diesel ban, as it's being called, is essentially only in 6 states, but potentially 5 more to follow that, and several of those states are major markets for those types of RVs. This could have a potential landscape changing effect on the RV industry. If the volumes of sales for those types of things were high enough that they could say, well, I guess we just don't sell to California, too bad, so sad, that would be one thing. But that might be a nail in the coffin for some, either for certain RV products, certain brands, certain segments, potentially certain companies. We are actually on this weird precipice where we may see potentially almost an entire segment of the RV industry kind of vanish very, very suddenly and violently in a way that we just had never expected, because it was just always assumed it's just always going to be there. So, your big motorized market has really been struggling already. Now we throw some legislation on there that prevents some manufacturers from just literally even making RVs that could be sold. And we have a very interesting landscape coming down the pipeline for motorized RVs. Now, I don't know this for certain, but given all the weirdness, it is possible that you might be able to snag some pretty aggressive deals on some of these things before they're banned coming into the next year. And I'm not saying that for our benefit. I look through our inventory. For the most part, we have very little to borderline none of that inventory even in stock for us. So I'm not saying this for our sales benefit. I'm saying it for your benefit as a consumer. If that's the type of RVing you wanted to do, and in the near future it may not be readily available to you, you may want to get one real quick to get it grandfathered in before that all changes out from under you. Now, that's the shipment side of the industry. What about the sales side? Well, the most recent stats really kind of echo the same story that I've seen the last several times I've put these industry updates out, so I'll try to keep this pretty brief for you. The most recent month, sales were down 9% versus 2023. Overall, the industry as a whole this year to date, is down about 10.2%. I think the industry has sold So far, something like 289,000 RVs, whereas last year it was close to 320, somewhere around those numbers offhand. I don't have them directly in front of me. But the overall sales are down a little bit. What we've really hit here is kind of a point where manufacturers are just building and replacing what's being sold kind of as needed. Through this past year, pressures from things like interest rates, election year holdups, I guess I'll call it. I've been doing this a while now. I've seen several election cycles. My experience has been every election year, people draw in and they hold on and they wait. And generally, there's always going to be that person who says, if candidate A or B wins, that's the only time I'm ever going to buy an RV or a pool or whatever. They're discretionary dollars. My experience has generally been, though, after the election, people tend to go back to mostly living their lives however they were going to live them in the first place. So it'll be very interesting to see coming into this next year if we see a little bit of a kink in the garden hose let up, and if sales next year exceed sales this year. That is what a lot of the like the RV IA, RVDA, they are projecting. But they also projected we'd see a 14% increase in sales this year. We've seen a 10.2% decrease of sales this year. So we'll see how the chips fall, I suppose. And it's been a little while since I got into fuel price trends, and I figured I'd kind of take a peek at that, and it's been 4, 5, 6 months, I think, since I've talked about it in one of these videos. And something I noticed is that fuel prices have generally trended down since about April. That's not, again, necessarily uncommon in an election year. There always seems to be a little trend that way. But as we were talking about the diesel ban and how, like chassis and engine manufacturers or whatever, how they're allowed these credits based on how many zero emissions vehicles, ZEVs, are produced out there, it got me wondering, what have we seen in terms of the price of like electric vehicle charging over time? This was very interesting to me, despite the fact that fossil fuel prices, gas, diesel, have trended down consistently since April of this year. EV charging rates haven't moved, I think, but literally a penny. I think they have maintained almost 100% consistency during that time. 99% consistency, I suppose. But it's very interesting to me that although fuel prices seem to be up and down, up and down, up and down, probably because it's very heavily affected by the the purchasing of the fuel, your electricity rates have been almost dead flat. There's essentially zero curve to that whatsoever. Now, in terms of normal combustion fuel prices, that's pretty much expected to stay consistent through the remainder of the year. I won't be surprised if it starts creeping up in January. That always does seem to be the trend. If you look at the thing over time, there is a seasonality aspect to that out there. But at least for now, if you're doing some holiday traveling, you should be able to pretty effectively budget your fuel costs. And I swear, I could not have staged this segment up any better, and I did not even do it on purpose. Speaking of holiday travel, there are over 21 million people expected to do some level of RV traveling through the holiday season, whether that's Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Now, the interesting thing is that is potentially more people than are registered RV owners, and it took me a second to remember the fact that people can rent RVs and do some traveling around, or they may have an RV at a site that they essentially rent almost like an Airbnb and they go visit or something like that. But like a lot of people, a lot more people than I expected traveling in or to RVs for the holiday season. That I thought was very interesting. That's becoming, it seems, a very normal thing now. It sounds like a lot of these folks are traveling either for snow activity like skiing or something like that, or of course going to see family over the holidays is also another very common thing. Now, what I wasn't able to get clarity on with this data is do these stats include like, if you go to, say, your mom and dad's house and they have an RV that they use like a guest house, does it include that? I don't know. That might skew these numbers because, again, it was much higher than the number of registered RV owners, which had my brain kind of twisted around. By the way, you may have noticed how it's hat and glove season, and we're giving all the campers the pink drink of sleepover here, which is a sad time, for anyone that has it. By the way, folks down south who don't usually have to winterize RVs, know that we hate you. Because we want to go camping, and now we can't. Now it's our choice. It's our fault for living up here, but hey. Anyway, back to the point. Some interesting trends came out of this recent holiday travel study. The top expected uses for RVs this time of year were things like snowbirding. So that might be another one of those things that's skewing the numbers for those who are unaware. Up here in Michigan, we call Florida South Michigan. Michigan actually has 3 peninsulas. We have the Upper Peninsula, the Lower Peninsula, and then the Southern Peninsula, which is kind of what we call Florida. I don't know how Florida residents feel about that. Understand it's all a joke. But the thing is, there's the vast majority of RV activity this time of year are people who are leaving the cold climates and migrating south, basically, to enjoy warmer climes, as it were. Anyway, but 35% of leisure travelers over the holiday season are actually expected to use and enjoy an RV at some point during that travel, which again is a lot higher number than I would have necessarily expected. The other major chunk is, again, people going to visit families. But the thing that I thought was really interesting is about 25% of these leisure travelers had said they were considering an RV purchase within the next few months, which would basically put us into show season in the 2025 calendar year. And it makes me wonder, again, if we might not see a little bit of an uptick this coming year. I could be wrong. There's a lot of irons in the fire, but there's a lot of signs and indicators to say that we may see things not like bust loose, absolutely crazy, blowing the doors off the place, but picking up a little bit next year. And just a little bit of recognition, respect, and a tip of the metaphorical cap, since mine doesn't have something, a brim to tip, to Coach House RV. They are a smaller family-owned outfit. They were founded in 1995, now celebrating 40 years of producing RVs as a family-owned institution. And as somebody who, again, came from a family-owned operation, I just always love seeing the little guy succeed. So congratulations, cheers to you, and just nothing but wishes for future success. Now, my next couple segments here, if you watch my videos on the rigs, you probably have already seen some of this stuff, but not everybody catches every video I put out. And I wanted to look at like what kind of new parts and new tech might be coming into the industry over the next year, over this next season. And I see questions like this all the time. Like, people will ask, like, is auto leveling just not a thing on trailers? Because there's been a lot of people who have had fifth wheels who, for whatever reason or another, are in a downsize cycle right now. And there's always people going the other way, but there's a pretty big downsize trend in the fifth wheel market currently. And one of the things a lot of people don't like to give up once they've had it is auto leveling, but it's not something that's always readily available. Now, there's certainly been a number of manufacturers who have had auto leveling available, but it's no secret the cost of just darn near everything has been going up and up and up and up. Well, there's a newer, lighter weight, less expensive system for auto leveling coming out there. One of the first places I saw it is from the Cruiser RV group. You guys are good. And the like the MPGs, the Shadow Cruisers, etc., you may start seeing that come out. I have a theory this may be adopted more frequently. And I think before the dollars and cents get involved, people are like, I don't understand why everything doesn't have auto leveling. I want to kind of give you a quick little educational tip here, because their lighter weight, less expensive system, what it does is your power tongue jack will level the RV front to back. It's got a pair of fifth wheel style landing gear legs behind the tires that'll level it side to side, and then your front stabilizers will come down just to provide stability. I've got black on black gloves. I have no idea if you're able to see my hand motions here. Somebody who can read sign language thinks I just called a missile strike on the state of Montana, as far as I know. But it's actually essentially a 3-point system with dual stabilizers, as opposed to a more common, say, 5-point system like you often find on travel trailer auto leveling. Now, here's the thing. before we get the dollars and cents involved, it sounds like a home run. It's lighter weight, it's less expensive, it's push button easy. Why wouldn't I do it? First of all, just to prep the chassis, whether the auto leveling system is applied or not, is an additional like $250 to $300 hard cost dollars in the base cost of that RV, whether you get the option or not. That's what I mean all the time in my other videos when I say, even if a manufacturer offers an option, even if it's not applied to the RV, the existence of the option increases the base cost of the RV in almost every circumstance. And that's a chunk of money because, let's be real, if that's a hard cost, say to a manufacturer, they mark it up to a dealership, there's a markup to you as a customer, that ends up being an expensive prep point. Now, the MSRP dollars on this auto leveling system is about $2,200. Now, you don't pay full MSRP at our place. I don't think you should ever pay full MSRP on any RV, but still, between the base prep cost and the actual hardware installed on your RV, you're probably close to $2,000 all in on this thing. So I'm kind of curious. You know, I personally think that's why we haven't seen a lot of auto leveling in travel trailers, because the base cost of it is, it dings the price tag of a travel trailer so harshly and so quickly, more so than I think most people realize. But I'd be kind of curious, for those kind of dollars, is that something you think would be worthwhile on an RV, or are you thinking, well, for $2,000, man, I could just go back to leveling it the plain old way? I don't think there's a wrong answer to that. But I am kind of curious to know what you think if you're willing to share. Now, something I'm very big on personally are items that provide enhanced towing safety, because I don't think there's enough emphasis placed on that, either from the RV marketplace or anything, because if people realize some of what it might take, some people might not buy an RV. Anyway, what I'm getting at is Airlift has just come out with a new system of basically blind spot detection, cross lane awareness, lane change assist, warning lights, and sensors for RVs that's available aftermarket. Now, it's essentially going to operate the exact same way, if you're familiar with the Ember Touring system, as what I call the butt radar. These extra things that look like extra tail lights over here, they're actually sensors that kind of always watch for something in what would either be your blind spot, or like if you're at a parking space at like a gas station, somebody parks in front of you and you got to back out, it's weird or something like that. You know, rear lane cross traffic detection assistance. And what it'll do is, if something is detected there, then there will be marker lights that, well, again, Ember Touring has, but you could add with this Airlift system to any existing RV, any towable RV, you could add these things, and those things will light up, and you can see them in your side view mirrors to know if the way is clear or not. If they're lit up, you need to chill out. And it's absolutely no different than if people have, you know, the same kind of technology on their vehicles, where like maybe you have a blind spot alert light that flashes on the side mirror of your vehicle. It's the same kind of thing there. Again, it's technology that has been in the automotive industry for safety reasons for years, finally slowly starting to make its way into the RV industry, and it's really not even been adopted on any sort of mass scale. Anything that is safety based like that, though, I like to put out there. So if that is, you know, if towing is a concern for you, changing lanes, any of that stuff is a concern for you, you at least you know you have an opportunity where there's this little system you could apply to your existing RV and not have to trade in a whole new camper to have a better, safer, more enjoyable towing experience. And speaking of new parts and things you may see rolling out in the RV industry, you're going to see several of your more, I would say, upper middle class and above fifth wheel manufacturers adopting this thing right here. This is the new Helix pin box system, your current Helix pin box. I always want to say Helix, but it's Helux. Why, I don't know. But I know what it does. Basically, it's a shock dampening system where what it does is not only just provide a better, smoother ride in your vehicle by softening the bouncing and jouncing, but it translates up to 50% less stress into your RV's chassis. So every time you hit a bump, some of that kinetic energy and violence snakes up through, you know, your tires, the vehicle's tires, through the chassis, whatever, and gets expressed and shakes things around a little bit. And it basically stresses the chassis 50% less, which basically what this is a hitch system that drastically reduces the opportunity for frame flex, frame failure, if we're going to call it what it really is, because all frames flex a little bit, but it reduces the opportunity for frame failure by a massive degree, while also providing you a better daily ride and handling experience. Now, here's the thing. When you get new stuff like this, the suppliers who build this stuff, they can't necessarily create enough of them to offer it aftermarket right away. Currently, this pin box system is available only to RV manufacturers. I think Cougar has adopted it. I know Brinkley was one of the first to jump on the train. I suspect in a year or two, if it proves popular, you'll see them ramp up production enough where it will start to become available aftermarket. But for now, it will be available only on certain new RV brands straight from the factory. And speaking of Brinkley RV, a quick congratulations to the team at Brinkley RV for earning the accolade, their new Model I series, for being RV of the Year. I remember when the first Model Z came out, they were in they were one of the top 10 finalists for RV of the Year. The Model G was in the top 20 for consideration, and the new Model I travel trailer, which is not what's behind me, has just earned the designation of RV of the Year for just being a little more out of the box and forward thinking than a lot of things that had been presented as new this year. If you haven't seen that, if you want to learn a little bit more about it, I've got a full video tour of that thing, if you could believe it. Again, I'll drop you a link in the description if you want to check that sucker out. It's very different in a lot of very cool ways. I think it's fun just because it's not the same thing that I see every day, but it might not be for everybody. I'd encourage you to take a look. Now, this might be a little bit out of position in this video sequentially, but I just had a notice kind of shot over to me as I was walking around out here. There's talk we may see some additional interest rate relief, possibly within this calendar year or early next calendar year. It's not for certain, but evidently there's been some talk amongst the feds that, like we saw our first interest rate reduction, about a half point actually, when everyone was expecting a quarter point, we got a half point, which still isn't like, oh my gosh, everything is better now, but it's something instead of nothing. We might see a little further rate reduction, so fingers crossed we all get a little bit of relief there. So if you're again planning for the future, maybe that's a thing to keep an eye on, watching the RV interest rates, because the federal rates don't really affect the RV interest rates directly right away. There's a little bit of a delay effect in there sometimes. Also, something I was not expecting, Sunset Park RV, who's actually the company that's going to be building our own little Bish's exclusive Go Light series. I didn't even know that this was in the works. They are acquiring, or have acquired, Riverside RV. That kind of came as a little bit of a surprise to me. Basically, Sunset Park RV is effectively going to grow from 1 production line to 3, and something I thought was very cool about this is they are, as far as I can tell, retaining all of the Riverside staff. So, like, a lot of times when there's acquisitions like this, a lot of times there's also a little bit of a shrinkage in the overall thing, and that results in some people losing their jobs. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case here. It sounds like it's an investment for growth and expansion, which is something I'm kind of excited to see and hear. Now, what they'll be producing, what might change between the two brands, way too early to know that for now. If that's something you're curious about, leave me a note and I'll do my best to try to circle back on that once those waters quit being so muddy. And finally, as we wrap up here, I want to give another metaphorical tip of the cap to Mr. Ryan Jude and his team. Ryan is the president over at KZRV. He and his team got very involved. They've been very involved over this past year in a lot of local philanthropical things, and I always love to give credit to that, when people give back to their community like that. They got involved in, I guess you call it a t-shirt drive, selling Support Our Veterans t-shirts, with proceeds benefiting the Disabled Americans Veterans organization. I believe that's dav.org, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's a very cool thing, providing funding, raising awareness for, I think, a very, very awesome cause. Because in a quite real sense, if it weren't for our veterans and our fallen soldiers, I don't think we would necessarily have the opportunity to enjoy the outdoors the way that we do. So thank you for giving back to those folks right there. And thank you folks for staying tuned for so long. Once again, remember, I guess I've got a couple what I call companion videos for you today, especially again, if you really want to go through that big discussion of what is the state of RV quality in the industry today, why, and what's being done down the line for it, check out that other video that we put together for you recently right here. Short of that, thanks again for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, let us know, and please share any comments you have along the way. As long as we can keep it from being ugly language belligerent, you'll notice I don't tend to filter the comments section. It doesn't have to be all sunshine and roses. I'm being fair with you, and I want to reflect that even in the comments area. So until next time, thanks again for tuning in. Hey, we'll see you next year. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone. And one last thing. This now marks my basically 3-year anniversary with the Bish's RV team. And something that started as a joke and is now kind of becoming an annual trend in my December RV industry update. When I joined the team, there were folks who said I wouldn't last 6 months. And now we're here 3 years later, and to you, I say, nana nana boo boo, stick your head in doo doo.